Hi, I'm Marty Nimko. This is called I Try to Be Amused by It All, but by nature I'm sad and occasionally angry. The following trigger me, and I work to instead be amused by it all. We'll start with marriage. It seems absurd today for people to commit before family, friends, and perhaps God to be together, quote, in sickness and health, richer and poorer till death do us part. Hey, the average person marrying today can expect to live another 60 plus years if you're a woman, 55 if you're a man. With half of people divorcing, isn't such a proclamation slightly nuts as is spending money that could be used for a down payment on a house to throw a hoo-ha wedding? $5 per shrimp? $5,000 room fee for the few hours? Let's turn to elections. Our system almost ensures that the best people don't run, let alone win. Except for low-level offices, you have to commit to a lifetime of flesh pressing, including lots of flesh you'd rather not press. You must say the innocuous while sounding bold, and often declaring one thing to Group 1 and a different thing, perhaps using a different accent, to Group 2. If you were an outstanding person, would you subject yourself to a lifetime of that? I've written widely about an alternative called Select, Don't Elect. Just Google that and search on my name, Marty Nemko. Now turning to our government. Even conservatives continue to metastasize government, despite few people claiming that government is efficient. These days, I'm particularly annoyed with government's foolish transportation plans. First off, despite the increase in population, our green-centric government is doing all it can to force us out of our cars. For example, reducing, rather than building lanes to accommodate the increase in population, while developing nations are spewing far, 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 far more pollution by continuing to build, for example, coal-fired power plants, fast and furious. And our government convinces legislators, who are doubtful about all this, to vote for the package by claiming there's plenty in the budget for roads, but they fail to admit that much of that roads budget is not to build more roads and lanes, but to make driving more annoying, to drive people out of their cars into the noisy, ever more time-consuming, utterly not private mass transit. The, quote, roads budget includes building speed bumps and roundabouts, replacing parking spaces with little-used bike lanes and shrub clumps, and repaving roads, many if not most of which are low-use roads. They don't want to make the overall driving more pleasant, so they do the repaving on roads that really don't need it, like my own block, while other roads that are widely used have potholes galore. If government were cut in half, we'd all be better off, including having a lot more of our paycheck in our pockets, rather than wrested from us in taxes. Now I'll turn to diet. Of course, there are people who too often succumb to impulse, the fast food, sausage-loving crowd. But most middle-class people are, if anything, hyper-cautious. Organic lettuce, gluten-free, salt-free, and little, if any, meat. In a restaurant, they're guilty about eating one piece of bread, and they have their salad with dressing on the side. Of course, obesity kills, but there's little evidence that such hypervigilance pays in health span or lifespan. Now I want to turn to extreme exercise. Of course, moderate exercise is salubrious, but the evidence is at best equivocal on whether extreme exercise, like long-distance running, let alone triathlons, are long-term healthy. And few people can honestly claim that whatever endorphins get released, very temporarily, are worth the time and pain of extreme exercise and risk of injury. Now I want to turn to God. We all wish there was an all-seeing, all-knowing, benevolent God watching out for us. But that's tough to believe when literally billions of us, including infants, have died in agony of diseases such as cancer or from natural disasters like earthquakes. If belief in some form of God provides you with comfort, of course that's great. But from where I sit, the only God, real God, is the best self within each of us. Turning to reverse discrimination. Many groups have been profoundly victimized, and been so more recently than the enslaved blacks 170 years ago, 8 generations ago. Jews for millennia, not just the Holocaust in the 20th century. Chinese Americans enslaved in the 20th century, building our railroads. The Vietnamese in our own lifetime, suffering unspeakable death, maiming, and loss of their homes and their country. Short people, old people, fat people, ugly people, poor people, even rich people who are relentlessly attacked by society's mind molders having unearned privilege, when in fact most rich people worked long and hard and smart, delaying gratification, and invested rather than overspent. Almost every group can claim being aggrieved. When decision makers use reverse discrimination in college admissions, medical school selection, hiring, awarding of government contracts, and so on, they are forcing merit to the back seat. Not only does that aggrieve and often quietly infuriate the meritorious people who have been rejected for their lack of melanin, all of us suffer worse quality of our products and services from customer service to medical service. And many black recipients of reverse discrimination's largesse feel less worthy and more insecure than people selected purely on their merits. Plus, ironically, to please liberal virtue signalers, blacks are often selected for positions at which they're less likely to succeed. For example, African Americans much lower graduation rates at brand name colleges, when they could have done better at a college just a notch less selective. Thus, ironically, blacks are being enslaved again, this time by their ostensible champions. And finally, media bias. I cannot understand journalists' hubris, proudly using their clever wordsmithing, which is very different from wisdom, to manipulate us into agreeing to yet more redistribution from the meritorious to others. For example, the double standard in how Jews are treated. Despite Jews being much overrepresented in science, medicine, entertainment, literature, social justice, etc., Jews are, for example, 1% of the population, 22% of the Nobel Prize winners. Yet journalists made Bernie Madoff, Harvey Weinstein, and Jeffrey Epstein front-page news for months while being near silent about black fraudsters like the Black Lives Matter organizers who spent a fortune of the donations that people gave to them on luxuries for themselves. I'll bet you can't even name one of those Black Lives Matter organizers. Wisdom resides across the spectrum. Solid, humane arguments can be made for liberal and conservative views, but you wouldn't know it if you paid attention to society's mind molders. Not just the mainstream media, but the school and the college curriculum. So, I try to be amused by it all, but it is tough. Anyway, that essay is called I Try to Be Amused by It All, But. In any event, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And certainly would welcome you taking a look at any of my 34 books. Probably the most relevant to this is A Dose of Reality, but all 34 are on Amazon. Just go there, search on my name, Marty Nemko, Nemko, and you will find more than you can stomach. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.